Hi, guys. Thanks for joining us on the Activate and Illuminate podcast with Mel. I'm your host, Mel. Together, we're going to be diving into some stories of ordinary people doing a little bit of extraordinary things. People who've maybe pushed their bodies, their mindsets, or maybe society's paradigms. So you're going to find yourself maybe wanting to laugh, cry, or even be inspired. We would invite you to share, like, and subscribe, to sign up for our newsletter as well on activateandilluminate.com. Now, just keep in mind that this information that you are going to hear is informational and educational for entertainment purposes only. This does not constitute professional advice of any kind. The views expressed are those of myself and guests only. Listeners are encouraged to seek professional and legal advice regarding their own situations. So, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time, and thanks again for being here. All right.
Ready?
Well, hey guys, thanks so much for being here today. So today I have Gail Provenzano from Sault Ste. Marie. Now, I was connected with Gail because she has done something extraordinary. You're going to hear a little bit about her story, but she is in the face of tragedy and pain, creating something that is helping a lot of people. So this is Mental Health Month here in Canada, and I wanted to bring a little bit of honor to Gail's story and most importantly to Gail's son. So here we are recording a special Mother's Day tribute today. It's my honor, Gail.
Thank you.
To record this with you today in honor of your son.
Thank you so much.
So tell us a little bit about your son first. Tell us who he was, and then we'll go into what you've created.
Okay. Brett was a typical boy who had a big heart. He communicated with people. He had a special way of communicating with people. And I knew that at a young age, his kindness and his care. He would, we had the United Way with the bells. And if he got money for Christmas, he would put the money in there when he was a kid instead of buying something for himself. He made sure that we were able to donate to some place so that they would have something more because he knew that they might have been struggling. When he was at my parents' place, a bird had hit the window and it had died. He picked it up and he put it in a little box and we had to bury it. And we put it in my parents' backyard in the box and that's where that little bird went. So as a young boy, I knew right there he had compassion and I knew he had just something, you know. So when he got into school, he played hockey, but for him, hockey was his fun sport. Football was his sport. I see videos. He always made his kids laugh. His friends laugh in school. He was quiet at home. He was like probably any other teenage kid that I remember. I get home and how was school? Fine, blah, 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 blah. But then with Facebook and everything else, you'd see something and his friends would be laughing so hard that they'd be crying because he'd be making noises or he'd be imitating people. And I guess the best one, I guess he would call people and he would make a sort of an accent to pretend he was a vacuum cleaner or vacuum salesman, but he would just sort of prank parents of his friends. And they'd be like, oh, Brett, you know, we know it's you. One Halloween. You would never think of this nowadays, but one Halloween, he dressed up as a woman. He dressed up as a woman one Halloween. And he got so many laughs and we had so many pictures and he wasn't afraid to be himself. He wasn't afraid to be who he was. Now, I will say when he was a younger boy, he was a bit hefty and a bit bigger. And he sort of got picked on a little bit when he was younger. Kids would call him chubby. Kids would sort of make fun of him. He was a little bit slower in hockey. And he would never really tell me too much, but he would say, you know, somebody would say something to me or somebody would say this. And I would say to him, I'd say, Brett, don't worry. I said, I know one day you're going to be bigger than those boys and they're going to look up to you. I said, you are just who you are right now, and you just be who you were. And he was. He did ask me one time, why can my sister eat so many bags of potato chips and not gain weight? And I gained the weight. And I'm like, because you and I have a slow metabolism. That's why. And he never really, it bothered him a little bit. And if it bothered him a lot, he may have told his sister. But he was able to cope through it. And then by the time he got to grade 8, he was towering over the kids. And he had gained the respect. And it wasn't the respect, it was the stop of the bullying. because he was a little bit bigger. And not that they were afraid of him, but they just really realized that he was a good kid. And I realized, and he had so many friends. Like he had, like when he was playing hockey, and yes, some of the kids at school maybe have said a few things that, you're chubby or you're this, but he never really got on the hockey teams. They just had the kids, a story recently about my son years ago. Maybe he would have been 31 this year. Years ago, probably when they were maybe 11, he was on a hockey tournament in Elliott Lake, which is an hour, 2 hours from Sault Ste. Marie towards Sudbury. And I happened to be at a funeral of a young man's father. And I knew the family very well, and they were so supportive after Brett had passed. And when I got to the young man, he said to me, he goes, "Can I tell you a story about Brett?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." He goes, "When we were in Elliott Lake, we were like trying to get on the elevator and we couldn't get on, so we were playing mini sticks. But he'd go up to the elevator and he'd tap and he'd put his ear to it and he'd go, 'Hello, hello.'" He goes, and I would giggle, giggle, giggle. Well, the one time he did it, the door opened and somebody was there. He's telling me this at his father's funeral. And we got a laugh. And then we both cried. That to me really, really hit home on how many people he touched and how many good memories he made with the people and what he had left with his friends after he's been gone, what they remember 19 years later, what he remembered of that story to tell me at his father's funeral. That just made me think, wow, he really, even to this day, 16 years later, he still has that community. He still has that. He still has that connection that may have been lost a long time ago. And he made that when he was a young kid because he got in trouble at school. A young boy pushed one of his friends. He went to do something about it and he would get in trouble. He would protect his friends however they could. He stood up for who he could. And he overall just made them really happy. But he'd come home and we'd be like, yeah, okay. And then we'd hear about stories and then we'd see him on Facebook. And he just had a warmthness of him. And he was able to bring people together. And they all had a great time. That's who he was.
Thank you, Gail. Well, tell us a little bit about what you have created and why.
Okay. First I'll start the reason why. 16 years ago, this June, I've lost my son to suicide. And after telling you how Brett was growing up and and I don't want to use the word popular, but we'll use popular just sort of the best way I can describe it. But I don't mean popular in the sense of cool popular, hierarchy popular. I just meant as a person on how popular he was, how many friends he had. It looked like he was going to have a career in football with college football. He had so many plans that, having said that and having told you and having talked about him, saying that he died by suicide 16 years ago just doesn't make sense because sometimes people think there are signs. Sometimes people think that they leave a note. Sometimes people think that they may clear out their bank accounts or have somebody take care of their pets. There's none of this. There was none of that. What I did think though, my son was 15, Brett was 15 years old. He was a typical 15-year-old. And I knew he was having some ups and downs. And I think it was girls and this and that. And we did go to my family doctor because I just wanted to have him have a chat with somebody just to see whereabouts he was in life at 15. Not that I was concerned. I was concerned about his mental health, but I wasn't really concerned fully about him. I just wanted him to talk to somebody, not mom, in a sense. And he talked to whomever and we left and nothing was said. So that was all said and done and life went on. Our normal life went on. And so my husband and I, 16 years ago in June, were heading up fishing to Wawa for a few days. And my son was at home and he said to me before I left, we got to go get, my work clothes. And I said, I'll be there. I'll be back Saturday at noon. We'll go shopping for your work clothes because he was starting a job with a landscaping company. He had an exam Friday morning. He was going to a party that he knew about in the east end of Sault Ste. Marie, which I okayed. So everything was set. I had no worries, no nothing. But what I did have is, unfortunately, I had a sixth sense. And when moms get that sixth sense, hard to say sometimes, it's hard to let go. And when I actually got up to where we were fishing, I said to my husband, I said, don't be surprised if the OPP show up. The reason why I said that wasn't because of my son. It was because my daughter was on her grade 8 graduation trip in Toronto during the time that the G20 summit was on. And I was more worried about her than I was about Brett. So that right there is just when the OPP officer said, no, it's not your daughter. She's home fine with your parents. It's your son. He's got a broken leg. He's got this. He said, no, he's dead. And right then and there, your world just stops. My world stopped. I didn't know what to do. How did he die? Was he defending the house? Somebody must have shown up and pulled a gun on him. Like, what happened? Suicide did not enter my husband and my brain at all. There was no thought of that whatsoever. So when we got to Wawa, we needed to know. And I don't know, police confidentiality. They said, we're not supposed to tell you, but they told us it was suicide. And then I sat from Wawa all the way to Sault Ste. Marie, which is about a 3-hour drive, trying to wrap my head around the fact that how in God's name did this happen? Because there's no signs, there's no notes, there was no nothing. So we got home again, everything went. I walked around in a daze waiting for him to come out of a bush at my parents' place because my mind, he was over in Iraq fighting the war. I could not sensibly in my brain think he was gone. So for the longest time I was in shock, and I literally lived by, I called it the toy soldier. So you wind yourself up, wind at night, and then you wind yourself down, you go to bed, and you wind, and you just keep going until you drop. And then you eventually drop, and then you wind yourself back up again. And I did that for a few months, actually. And then the real pain, the real agonizing pain comes when the shock wears off. When you realize that, oh, no, he's not in Afghanistan or over in Iraq fighting a war, or no, he's not away at school either. No, he's gone, he's dead. And then that reality hits you. And then that's the life you have to try to figure out how to live. And I best can compare that to going to bed. I'm a right-handed person, going to bed with my right arm, and I wake up and my right arm's gone the next day. You just don't know how to live without that arm or how to adjust. When Brett died, half of my heart died as well. It just takes a lot out of you. So the other biggest reason, and we had the funeral, but how I knew he had touched the community so much was at the wake. There's so many kids that came from so many different high schools in Sault Ste. Marie. And we have maybe 5 high schools back then, 4 or 5 high schools at the time. And everyone would tell me a story. Oh, I'm from White Pines. I met Brett at this party. I'm from here. They always had this big story to tell, or a good story to tell. And then I had talked earlier about his salesman. There's a vacuum cleaner in the receiving line. And I'm like, why is there a vacuum cleaner here? And then they're like, oh, that's because he was I'm like, I never knew that. So it was stuff like that I would hear. And then a football team was on their way. The Sabercats were on their way for a tournament. And because the lineup was about an hour or so long wait, I suggest bring them in right away. And it was the respect I got and the memories I heard that really hit home that, wow, he really did have a huge part in this community at 15 years old. So that really, then and there, I needed to do something. I need to do something, but it was too fresh. And I don't like using that word because I wanted to talk to the kids after Brett passed, but everybody said, oh, it's too fresh. It's too early. You're too attached. That's the best time to talk. That's the best time to show your raw emotions, but in a tame way, because the longer you stew about things, the angrier or the frustrated you get. So I found if I would have been able to talk sooner, I would have been able to heal a little bit for myself and help other kids and say, yeah, this is what's going on. But that's when I really realized about the community and the effect he had with the community. So prior to losing Brett, I was active. I played sports. I wasn't like baseball, this and that. After losing Brett, I didn't do anything for a couple years. So I needed to get active and I went to a gym. I needed to do something too because my mind would not stop thinking. And I could not figure out how to stop my mind from thinking. It just wouldn't stop. So I went to the gym and I figured I'd try this, but I got more mad because I couldn't do the activities. I couldn't do what I was able to do before. Because I've changed. My thinking has changed. My eating changed. My sleeping habits changed. My life changed. So there's when I met a very good friend of mine who was running a boot camp and who didn't take no for an answer when I said, no, I can't do this. And I break down and cry. And she would be right down with me on those crazy sliders telling me, you can do this. You can do this. And I'd do 1 or 2 and I'd break down and cry again. And we would talk about Brad and the family and I'd get the strength up and I'd go again. And you can do this, she'd say to me. And she pushed me in a great way. She pushed me to see that I had something outside of the life I had living with Brett being gone. I had my family. I have my daughter, my husband, my parents, my in-laws, my sister-in-law, my brother, I have everybody, but it was something I needed to do for me. I needed to get better first, that I felt, before I could help other people, before I could be back to a great mom and a good wife and a great wife and a good daughter and a good daughter-in-law and a good sister-in-law and a good sister. I needed to get back because I was falling apart inside. And to me, physical fitness was the way to do it. And my friend Stephanie was the one who really got me determined to do it. So after getting frustrated at boot camp, she suggested to try 5K with the Sault Ste. Marie Strider, which is a running club in the Sioux. And I went out for my very first 5K. Never ran in my life. Tried in high school, but no distances, not for me. So I did my first 5K and I did it. I couldn't walk the next day. It was pretty sore. But what I found with the running community in town here in Sault Ste. Marie is that they're amazing. They are so supportive. They wait for you. No one's left behind. If you're going to stop and cry, they'll stop and hug you. It's just an amazing group of people that are full of support. And sometimes I would go running and it'd be a 5K and I couldn't even get through like a half of a K and I'd break down and cry. And then I'd get on Strava and I'd be like, so frustrating. I couldn't get out there today. I'm so mad at myself. And then my friends would get on there. Well, you got out. You did something, which is more than nothing. And I had to get that in my head. That even that little step, like healing, if you take that little step, it's better than nothing, even though it might be little. Because those little steps or those little runs will eventually elong into some long times that you may do a longer run, or you may take a break with your mental health for a longer time. So having said that, that's where I found I was getting my mental health break, was running, because it was a struggle to get through 5Ks. When I made it through my first 5Ks, it was like my next, okay, now let's time for 8. Let's get to 10. And then it came to, let's try 15. So this is when I went out with my girlfriend and her sister, who said, okay, we're going to do your first 15Ks. And actually, I don't know if you can see it behind me, but there's a picture right there. That was my first 21K I did with them. That was supposed to be 15, but not 21. But anyways, we get out there and we get to the 15 and let's push it to 21. So we do the 21 and I did it. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. But prior to all of that, I wanted to do something to remember my son, to help take this pain that I have, to help heal it and to help maybe share it with people that they can learn that you're going to be able to survive, and bring awareness to a few things. Suicide's not always planned, one thing. Suicide could be a spur of the moment. Give support to people that have lost somebody suddenly or to that way via suicide, or people who might be down that road, who have survived from maybe possibly going down suicide road, have stepped back and now are better for themselves. So I thought about writing a book. By the time I was 61, I thought a few things, but what I found was, I love Ottawa. Ottawa is such a pretty city. And I was looking up a few things on Ottawa, and they have a run for a young lady. Dorian was her name. And her dad was an NHL hockey player. She passed away approximately 3 months via suicide, as well as my son did in the same year. It was just within a short time frame. And I thought to myself, well, that would be actually a good idea, because I found how it was helping me. And I wonder how they work it. So I was in touch for them with a little bit. So you get the momentum going. And I think it was called the Run for Dorian, but I can't really remember. But anyways, I got the momentum going. I had this great idea, but then it stops because you don't have the tools. I didn't have the tools to do it until I ran that crazy 120 or 21K. And I'm like, okay, I got the tool now. I can do this. So what I decided was, probably within the month of me doing that, 3 weeks or a little bit less, I didn't realize it wasn't that easy, but I decided to have a fun half marathon. And I will tell you right now, there is no such thing as a fun half marathon. It is a marathon that you just have fun if you want to have fun, because it struggles sometimes, but it can be fun. So what I did is I got my parents, my husband, and we did set up water stations every 5Ks. And the Sioux Striders, they ran it. We ran the run. And I wanted monies to go to young men because after Brett had passed, there were a few other suicides of young men in Sault Ste. Marie, that year as well. And a couple years after, and it was people I knew were losing young men to suicide. And there's such a care, even when you look at statistics or you go online and the different rates, it's, I think I'm going to say 14 to 25 is one of the highest rates. And then it jumps from 55 and then 85. It's that type of, a jump. So I wanted to do something. So I reached out to Sunny Spina. Now, Sunny Spina was one of the police officers that was working when my son passed away. And he kept in phenomenal communication with Sault Ste. Marie, or with us after Brett had passed. He had actually said to me that he kept Brett's file on his desk to remind him the importance of mental health care for men. And if they're struggling, you really need to reach out to people as well. So I ended up having a keynote speech with Algoma Family Services Foundation, and we started the Community Strong Race Weekend that raises monies for Algoma Family Services Foundation, and all monies and I'm very proud to say this, all monies stay in the Algoma District. They don't go outside of Algoma. They stay here for our local people. And Algoma could be Elliott Lake, Thessalon. So we're talking about an hour to 2 hours outside of our community. That's when Algoma Family Services Foundations. So that's when we started it for that.
So tell us what that run has developed into now. Yeah.
This will be our 5th year. So the
Yeah.
first year, it probably was a handful of people and some volunteers. And now it has expanded. Last year we had, well, I'll just give a real quick, it's turned into a passion. It's turned into something I never thought could happen. It started with a simple idea with a lot of the community volunteers and community efforts to keep this going. It took Sioux Striders. It took a lot of guts to get it going. It really did, because it could have failed very easily. But we were able to, and the purpose of it was, it's community oriented. And that's where we started it right from the start. It took a little bit of time, I think, to grasp onto that fact that the community works as a whole. When one person in the community is suffering, other people in the community are suffering. And I think people watching it the first year, word of mouth, it just expanded and expanded and expanded to, I would say, if I give you some numbers, 120 people do the color run, which is a family run, which is, you don't have to run it. See, the Community Strong Race Weekend is not about racing. It's not about running all the time. It's about taking something you want to do and challenging yourself and taking that break through that challenge and giving yourself a mental health break while doing something physical. So you're helping both your physical health and you're both helping your mental health, because your mental health is just as important, if not more important, than your physical health at times. And the other thing is too that I really learned is that what we really wanted to show too is physical health. You can see that. Crutches, a cane, a sling, whatever. Mental health, you don't see mental health. And we wanted to put a face to that. And I wanted to put a face to that. You don't see that. And that sort of, again, goes back to my son. He never really showed any mental health signs.
How do you think schools and communities can better support youth in mental health right now?
I think they need to be honest. I think they need to look at these kids and understand that a lot of them are way ahead and advanced than they should be, because I think that is because of social media. I think it's because of TikTok. I'm not saying any one of those are bad at all. I mean, I go on TikTok. I'm not much on things because I don't have time, but I do go on them once in a while. But I see what I really learned, how algorithms work and how an addiction TikTok can be to people. And I think the schools, I believe in banning cell phones in schools in a roundabout way. However, I grew up without a cell phone. I grew up without a cell phone. I had no cell phone. If my mom needed me, she called in the office, and the office got me on the speaker. Gail Nuxall, can you come to the office, please? That's how I got my parents. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, cell phones at school or not. I don't want it. That's a huge debate. But I think schools and the community need to recognize that these kids are smart, but they're also not that smart because they think they're watching these things. They think they know life, but they don't know life because they haven't really learned it. So I don't want to say go down to, and this is going to sound bad, but you got to go down to their level. You got to take yourself down and not be a hierarchy, not be a disciplinary, not look like you need to have respect, but not just push it on them. You have to make them open up to you, and you can't judge kids. That's the other thing too. I find people are really bad at labeling kids without even actually knowing anything about them. And I honestly think that what I have learned after Brett has passed has really changed that outlook for me too, and really changed the outlook for how I feel like communities. I wish they could say there's activities they could do after schools, because when we were kids, we had a lot of stuff to do after schools. Now there's nothing. You go on your computer, you go on here, you go on there. Not as many kids are outside anymore. It,
What do
it's
you think?
hard to go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, Gail.
No,
What do you think kids want to hear or need to hear that they're not hearing?
that they're supported. I don't think kids feel supported. I don't think kids feel heard.
Uh-huh.
I don't think kids feel listened to. I don't think kids are allowed to talk. I don't think kids are allowed to express their feelings. I always told my children at a young age, you can have an opinion. I'm not going to agree with it, maybe, or I might, but you always are free to ask me a question. There's no such thing as a stupid question. There's not. A question is a question. If you've got something to ask me, ask me. But as an adult, you need to respect, no matter how that question comes to you, you need to respect that question and answer it honestly, or at least try. I mean, there's honestly and overboarding answering, but honestly to the level of the person that's asking you. I don't believe things should be taken away from kids as punishment. Oh, you're taking your phone because you're on it too much. No, I think maybe parents should, this is hard for me to, it's not going to be hard for me to say. I think parents need to take that tablet as a babysitter that the kid is getting at a very young age while they're busy, and take a half an hour and maybe go outside with the kids or sit on that tablet and work with them with something. Be involved. Learn what your kids are looking at. If you want them off the tablet, say, oh, let's go outside and play ball for a little bit. A lot of that responsibility has to come. And I'm not trying to label that parents give the tablet to their kids as a babysitting tool. It does happen sometimes. Parents are busy. If they're doing dishes, we had a TV. Brett Marnie sat in front of a TV. I understand that. My kids also, I remember too, when they came home from school, I felt they needed downtime, like me after work. When I get home from work, I need downtime. I need to think. I need to air my brain out. I need to go outside. I need to do something. So I always gave the kids about an hour. You guys do what you want for an hour, play games, go outside, do whatever. But right after supper, whatever, we get your homework done. They also had a TV in their bedroom, but their TV was on at nighttime when they just needed something to listen to fall asleep to. So I believe kids just give them a break. Like let kids just be honest. Let them talk to you. Don't judge them. Don't tell them they're doing something wrong. Try to find other words. Try to find good ways to communicate with them. Try to find a hobby that you might music, if that's what your daughter, son are into. I learned I never really liked music, but my son listened. My son would tell me what every song was about on every record. And now I find myself listening to every song that's played, trying to find the meaning. And I wish he was here to share that with him now. So yeah, listen to your kids, but don't always accuse them of something. Listen before you start, I don't know, pointing fingers at people.
Parents that are feeling disconnected right now, you gave some great some great answers, but is there anything in particular that you would say to that disconnection?
Don't give up. Don't give up. Don't push, but don't give up. Take a step back, maybe breathe a little bit, but just don't throw in the towel. Everything takes time. It's taken me 16 years to get here today where I am today. I'm in a good spot. I'm not in a great spot. I still relive the day we got the knock on the door every day. I still see him at the funeral home in my head. I still see him in his casket. I still very remember picking out a casket because A parent should not be picking out their child's casket. Those are things I still remember. But what I have done is I've been able to take those and to continue on and not give up. And when they come and hit me, I allow it to take hold of me, hit me. I'll breathe through it. I'll cry through it. But then I get up and I sort of dust myself off and I try again. And that's what I would say to parents. You're gonna probably cry. You're going to feel like your kids probably hate you, but don't give up, because I know I know kids say that. I said it to my parents. I'm 61 years old. I said it to my parents. My kids said it to me, but they don't. They don't hate you. They just don't know what they're feeling. Their brains, their feelings are so confused that the easiest word they come to is hate. Don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. Just maybe take a step back. Let yourself breathe. Let yourself feel sad. Let yourself go through those emotions. Dust yourself off and try again, but just give it time. It could take a week, a month, a year, but just give it time and don't give up.
How would you say that your strength has changed? Or maybe definition of strength has changed?
It's funny because and I'm going to say this, you might have to take it out. I don't give a shit factor. I'm sorry. I lost my son. And so it took me a long time to get myself back on my feet. And I'm not being rude. Right? It's far from being rude. But I've learned I have to protect myself now and my family. But for myself is I don't let things get to me. Things aren't as urgent, let's say. Yeah, I just find that I have learned. I had good counseling too. I will be honest. I went to a counselor after. It took me a couple years to get into one, but I went to him. Well, actually, the Sioux Area Hospital, because there's limitations, wanted me off after sort of a set of sessions, but my counselor kept me on. And he helped me. He was one of the one who helped me to get my strength back and to get my 2 feet on the ground. And it's not easy. It's not easy, but you just learn to like I said about not giving up, you just learn to pick yourself back up again and keep going. But the other thing is too, I knew I had to be better. And I said this earlier, but stronger for my family. I need to be able to, and my strength also comes the fact that I live in 2 worlds. Like I live in the world that I work, I exist every day. I do this, I do that. And then every once in a while, I go back into the world that my son, and he's gone, and all those memories are there. And it's difficult, but I have to go back to reality. You have to live in reality because that reality makes you stronger as well. It's like, I took it like when I was on antidepressants, I got off of them. And the reason is I had a bandage on. That was the antidepressant. I had to rip that bandage off and I had to feel the pain, the depth of the pain. And I had to cry from my guts to get everything and anything, the madness, the anger, the frustration, the pain out of me. And I think and that's what I learned from my counselors, not to hold it in. And that's what made me stronger. That's what made me realize that I can go forward. And yeah, maybe I'm going to go home and cry later, but that gives me the purpose of doing this, which gives me the strength to go forward. Having a purpose, knowing I'm able to carry something forward, having a purpose, knowing my son is looking down and I know he's really proud of what's going on. And I know the strength also comes from the fact, and everybody told me, not a lot of people, but they said, Brett would not want to see you like this. And he's so right. They are so right. Brett would never want to see me like this because he knew how I was. I lived for their activities. My life was their activities. And he knew that. But now with him gone, he would not want me sitting around. He would not want me moping or crying or depressed all the time. He'd want me to do something. And the Community Strong weekend, with the strength that over the years of building, gave me the strength. But you know what it is also? Not just only strength, it's a confidence. It's more, now that when we're talking about strength, you need to have that confidence first that you've conquered or you're able to control some of your feelings. Like at time, I would say really early years, going to like Christmas parties, it was hard because he wasn't with us. So I would sort of have to leave early because I would just be getting sadder and sadder because I couldn't control my feelings. Not that I would scream and shout. It was just, I wouldn't be happy anymore. And I did not want to be happy. I didn't want to make anybody else unhappy. So I would go early and from different activities or family events. And I had to get the confidence to go to these events to build the strength to continue to go to these events. And that's what I did. I got the confidence in me knowing I could get through it. And that's not a bad choice of words, but that's what sort of feels like you're getting through it. But you're staying. You have the confidence that you can stay. You have the confidence that you can sing a Christmas song and not cry. But when you leave the house, you may cry, but you have that confidence. And that confidence I got, I feel helped me with my strength, which kept pushing me to go forward with my running, with the way I associate with people now. I'm very straightforward. I'm very honest. That's who I am now. I'm not saying I wasn't an honest person before, but I didn't pay a lot of attention to the little stuff. And now the little stuff I pay attention to, and a little stuff can make a lot hurt or be good. And
Do you ever feel his presence?
oof. Yeah. I hope there's one thing I really hope when when I thought I'm going to say this, after Brett passed, I thought I was going crazy. And I've heard that used before by other people in grief groups, that they felt like they're going crazy. And the reason why I say that is Brett and I were a big NBC Today Show morning watchers. So I'd get up in the morning and I'd cook him breakfast every morning because he went to school and I knew he needed to eat. So he had a bacon and eggs for breakfast, and off to school he went. But we had the Today Show on, and Al Roker and what he always imitated Al Roker. So anyways, after my son passed, and he unfortunately did what he did in our house. So our house had been in the hands of the police for a few days. So we didn't actually go. Brett passed in June. I didn't actually go back to my house until August. So we were at different places, but I'd be somewhere and all of a sudden the channel would change. And even because a year later we moved to where I am now. So we'd be here on Moss Road and where we bought our house, and I'd be in the kitchen and the channel would change. I didn't change the channel. Like things like that happened. Like channels changing. The very first Christmas that he wasn't there, that we went to the cemetery, there was a fox that came, and that fox sat there the whole time. The fox did not leave. I have had butterflies. Now they say butterflies are hard. Like in Ontario or Sault Ste. Marie, you don't really see a lot of butterflies. I see butterflies all the time. And just this fall, I had a butterfly, been out at camp during fall on and off, and it was like late October, and it comes zip by my face and it was gone. So those I get, that natural nature feelings I get. Right after he passed, I used to get feelings of him hugging me because he would come up from behind me and hug me. And I would get those feelings. I haven't had those. I think those in a long time. I do get the signs through nature, though. I do get a lot of those signs through nature. But I will say I've never I have not dreamt of my son in 16 years. And maybe for people who are listening and maybe have lost a child or a loved one and you're mad or frustrated, it just happens. You may just not dream of them. And I thought it was a horrible thing that I couldn't dream of my son, but now it's like, it will come when it comes. It will come when my dream is ready, because I've also heard that sometimes you may not dream of your loved one because you really haven't let go. And I have not let go. I had a long ride back from Wawa last year, right after running 23 Ks in the bush in the pouring rain. My girlfriend and I cried all the way home from Wawa, talking about my son and talking about something that she had just gone through. And while we were talking, she sort of looked at me and she said, "You're still there." And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." And that's really what we changed this year, actually, is when I said, I need to do some new traditions. And that's sort of another thing that is when you ask about strength. So I was a big Christmas person. So Santa Claus on Macy's Day Parade, goodbye. December when Christmas was up. Well, after Brett passed, the first Christmas I didn't want a tree, but Marnie was we had to have a tree. So we've every year have had a tree. It was a fake tree. And I said to my girlfriend coming back from Wawa, this year, new tradition, a real tree, Charlie Brown tree, and put it up the 1st of December. Well, I went to my parents' place. I cut down a Charlie Brown tree and it was put up the 1st of December. And I was so happy that was probably the very first thing that I have ever stuck to, of saying that I'm going to start trying to go back to new tradition, or back to old traditions, but maybe a little bit different. And I kept to it. So I was really proud of myself that I kept to that. But that again took some strength to get there.
Do you have any advice for people or for couples going through this and how you grieve differently?
Well, statistics say, from what I've heard, 50% of marriages survive. through tragedy like this.
Excuse me.
The best advice I don't even think I don't even want to say it's advice, but don't don't think that your partner, husband or wife or whomever your partner is going through the same way you are, because it's not. There's different ways people heal. There's different ways people grieve. There's different ways people act. Um, and I honestly would say to allow each other to grieve the way they're grieving, but try to find a middle ground. You need to try to find that communication because you need to talk. And you need, not necessarily when you're grieving each other and you're in your own areas, but you have to find that time to talk about real life. You have to find time to talk about maybe bills. You need to talk about maybe the dog. You need to break that grief cycle for a bit. And you also have to recognize each other's grief by talking about it and understanding it. Because my grief is different than my husband's grief, than my daughter's grief, than my parents' grief. They don't understand mine. I don't understand how but you just can't give up. Unfortunately, it's a roller coaster. That's exactly. And you have to be on that roller coaster together. You're going to be on your downs and you're going to be on your ups, and you're going to have probably some fights and you're going to have disagreements, and it's going to happen. Maybe, maybe not, but you need to just communicate with each other. You have to be honest with each other, and you have to show compassion
Hmm.
towards each other, understanding that, hey, I may not understand what your grief is like, but I'm here to help you. And maybe together and mine's different, maybe together we can try to work on maybe you'll find common grief things that you can work on. But yeah, don't give up. Don't give up because you need each other. Once you get through that part, you need each other because when you have two children, I always firmly believed I could have my kids around forever. Like when they went to school, I didn't want them to go to school. When you lose a child, what I did is I hovered Marnie, our daughter, we did, my husband and I. And because you're so afraid you're going to lose them and then you have
Oh,
nobody. And now I'm at the point, well, her and her boyfriend are looking to get a house and this and that. And it's me and my husband. And that's what you're going to have. Because if you have a child or you have other children, they're going to move on eventually. And you're going to be with your husband or your spouse or your partner. And you need each other at that time too, because that's when loneliness comes in. That's when you slow down. That's it. So you got to work through it. Don't give up. Honestly, don't give up and try. Don't ever say you understand something when you don't understand it. Be honest. Just be honest. You don't know what you're going through. Just be honest.
yeah. What's the hardest part of parenting a child after losing another one?
Thinking that they're going to die. Not maybe the same way, but something's going to happen. Car accident. Like my poor daughter did not get to go on the grade 12 grad trip because I was
Mhm.
not sending her to some island with a bunch of 18-year-old kids. She went to Guatemala and I went with her. We went on a Wells of Hope. I think they're through Niagara Falls area, but we went to Guatemala to help find water, and we made bricks. And yeah, but Marnie wanted to go and I ended up going because she just was not going by herself. She ended up staying in town. She is now a psychotherapist. She's graduated from Algoma University and got I think it would be her master's. I'm not sure how it works, but she went through York on the East Coast. So she's
Okay.
working right now. Yeah. So, but as a teenager, she didn't have the proper high school. I hovered. I was petrified. And I'm just now learning she's got a great young man that's been in her life for 8 years now. He takes care of her. I don't worry about her now. I always worry about her. I know she's safe with her boyfriend, but I always worry about her. It was more so maybe a few years back, but she's turning 30 this year. And I take that step back. I've got to take that step back and trust her. And she's in a good spot. So, but it's that child pays, that poor child pays the price. And if I could have done it, I mean, Marnie started grade 9 with a mass for her brother. That's how she started high school. And that's now how I would have liked her to start high school.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a leash.
So, in thinking about what you have created, this community run and this support, like I see this as a fantastic example of somebody turning this pain and grief into community resilience and into community purpose. If there's other people out there that have experienced similar things that are maybe wanting to take their pain or their grief and do something with it in their community, what would you tell them? And how would you tell them to start?
I would tell them to just do it. Like, they've got to recognize that pain, and they've got to, it's just, you've got to want to do it. It takes a lot. It takes a lot on you. But what you need to do is you got to get a good support group. And that's what I had. I had a good support group. Get a good support group in your community. Start a little walking group if you wanted to do that. Skateboarding. See, when you're dealing with your grief or somebody's dealing with your grief, it just doesn't, like for me, it was running. It could be tennis. Have a tennis tournament in honoring of somebody that you've lost or and start a community tennis tournament if you want tennis. Skateboarding. There's so much out there. Just find something that you might like. Find something that is suitable to your lifestyle. Like for me, running's a bit hard because I work full time. I have a house, but I got to squeeze everything in, but I do it. But find something that you don't maybe have time for. Find something that you really like. Find some people that have been supportive to you, that know that road you've been on. I have friends that I've run Community Strong with whose friends have lost their son to suicide. So find those people and show them how much fun it is. It doesn't have to be a chore. It doesn't have to be grinding the pavement. It could be walking. It could be bouncing a basketball and shooting hoops. It's whatever you find that gives yourself a break from whatever your mind is thinking of. If it's, you've lost a child or you've lost somebody close to you via suicide or not, something that gives you a peace of mind, something that you may not want it to try, but you're going to challenge. You might be, I played basketball in high school. Maybe I'll pick up basketball and we'll have a 3-on-3 tournament at, we'll have it for a weekend for a memory of so-and-so. And then maybe we'll communicate the youth and we'll get the youth involved because the youth are very important and talk a little bit about, mental health while we're having this basketball tournament or a 3-on-3 tournament.
Tell us the dates of your run.
The dates of the run, June. So the dates, I will tell you the reason for the dates of the run. There's a meaning behind that. Brett passed away June 26, 2010.
Okay.
So the very first run that we did was on June 26, 2021 on the day. And it was a day, the big thing about that for me was I needed that day of the anniversary date, which was also very painful and something I don't want to really remember, but have it on my mind constantly. So that's why we have the run around that weekend. It's right around the time, the 26th or the June 26th anniversary date. So it's a healing for some people, or it's just a help. And for me, that's why we keep it around there, just to honor Brett that way and to honor in memory of the date that he passed and that we're all together with him. June 19th, 20 and 21.
19th, 20, and 21.
Yeah. So
Tell us, for anybody that's perhaps, in that area, tell us the website that they can register at.
They can register through Algoma Family Services Community Strong. They can register through the Community Strong Race Weekend. I'm just going to pull it up right now.
And we will have this for sure in the show notes and stuff, Gail, just so you know, but I just wanted to have it verbally as well.
Yeah. So Facebook Community Strong Race Weekend 2026. Sorry, that was the music from my Facebook.
Yeah, that's okay.
And we are on Instagram, and I don't go on Instagram all that much, so I'm not really sure. But I can have all those proper ones from Jessica sent to you tomorrow. Like I can get them to you first thing in the morning.
Yeah, that's fantastic. But let's get back into your son. What is one thing that you would want people to remember?
His smile, his gentleness, his compassion for his friends, the love he had for his grandparents. He called my mother Mushroom because she was short. He was a team player. He always believed in helping others. And when I say a team player, he was never interested in sports where he would have been, or any activity. When I say sports or activity where he would have been by himself. He liked being on a team. He liked being with people. I would say he was also a leader, but not one of these leaders that needed to be propped up and hierarchy leader. He just had that personality that if you were sad, you could talk to him. If you had a joke, you could tell him. If you needed to cry, he'd hold you, he'd hug you. A memory just came back to me in our old house where we last lived. The water tank gave out in our basement, and my husband had been gone deer hunting. And I remember it was like 2 or 3 inches of water, and Brett helped me clean that all up. Like, that was the person he was. He would stop what he could do and he would help out others. I don't think he never put himself first. He never was one of these people that had to be first. Did he like to make people laugh? Yeah. And that's, he wanted people to be happy. But again, had a big heart. And if you were sad, if you were upset about something, or if he saw something happen to his friend, he would be there. He would be there to help him out right away. And that was just who he was the whole time.
So, in your wildest dreams, this race weekend in his honor, what would you love? What could you see it impacting in the future?
The race weekends.
Mhm.
Well, I said this earlier to someone else. I would love to see, I'm running the Ottawa half marathon in 2 weeks. They get
Uh-huh.
about 35,000 people.
Mhm.
Would love to see that in Sault Ste. Marie. But as a reality, I'm just excited to see the families and the kids and just how it's slowly growing. I don't know in my wildest dreams if I can predict anything, or I just really want to see year from year. I really just I don't look really ahead at anything life in the future. And I guess because of having gone through, losing Brett, looking ahead too far, so many things can change. But the way I look at it is I look year to year, and pardon me, I get excited to see how it's growing year to year. And if you do say my wildest dreams, that I'm 61 years old, and at 71 years old in my wildest dreams, I hope I'm still running a half marathon for the Community Strong Race Weekend.
Well, I hope you are too, Gail.
Thank you.
I just want to say that thank you so much for having this discussion. I know this is not an easy discussion to have, and we are doing it in Mental Health Awareness Month, but we're also doing it on Mother's Day. And I just want to give credo to you because to me, this feels like a huge honor to be able to have this conversation and bring awareness to this and just share in feeling a little bit of your, not that you can feel someone's pain, but share in feeling a little bit of your story. So I want to thank you because I know that there's going to be so many people out there that have experienced similar things. And I know you and I have talked prior and that you are an open book and you would love to connect. So I appreciate that. We will have all your connection details in the show notes. But is there anything that you have else that you would like to share, Gail, or that you haven't got to say yet?
I really first want to thank you for
Yeah.
being so great and being so helpful in leading me during this conversation. It is difficult on Mother's Day. We spoke earlier how I have to go up to the cemetery to see my son, where it should be the other way around. Having this conversation with you has helped me considerably. Your questions, your tone, and I know you feel my pain. I know you do. I really do. And I can tell that when we talk together. So I want to thank you for giving me actually an opportunity to talk about this. This is something that I've really wanted to do for quite a while. And I'm glad we were able to connect because I really do think there's a large community out there that have been touched by what I've gone through, my family's gone through. Um, that just need to understand that there's hope, that there's a way to get through things. It may not be right away. It may take time like it did with us. But once you find that way, grab it and take a hold of it and see where it goes. Because after you go through again something like this, you don't know where life is after. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So you just got to go by the seat of your pants. And as what I think is, if you build it, they will come. And honestly, that's been my saying every year with the Community Strong Race Weekend is, if we build it, they will come, and they are coming.
Mm.
So I just really want people to have hope. It is painful. There's no candy coating it. It's a change of life. Your life has changed instantaneously. But having Mel here made this conversation so comfortable and so easy for me to talk about that I'm very grateful I have this chance. And thank you very much, Mel. I really do appreciate that.
Well, you're so welcome, Gail. Well, it has been my absolute honor in honoring your son today. And I would implore anybody that is in the area, or even if you're not in the area, people take weekend trips for a lot less reasons.
And we got
So
discount
even
hotels.
so check out the community race strong. And also, if you're out there and you've experienced something like this and you're looking for ways to make an impact in your community, reach out to Gail because she is definitely done that and I'm sure could give you some pointers. So thank you so much, Gail.
Thank you. It
And
was my pleasure. Thank you so
all
much. It was
right.
my honor to have you doing this interview with me. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, you take care.